really
is.
wicked.
Man, talk about releasing music to the world. I mean, how, because you've written a couple of tracks at 12 years old, haven't you, yourself? I mean, because you're so young yourself already still, like, how did you feel releasing tracks at such a young age? Was it difficult? Was it exciting? How do you find it?
I think that there's still kind of 12-year-old nervousness for releasing tracks is still there. I
Yeah.
think for me, it's when I was like younger, it was the fact that I wasn't sure what people were going to say. And I think especially when you're like 12, 13, 14, and like the whole world is changing around you and you have
Mm.
no idea why, like it's difficult to put into words the kind of nervousness around, oh, will people like it? What will my friends say? You know, will my teachers hear it? What will my mum and my dad think about the song when it's out? What will my grandparents think?
Mm.
Like, there's all those types of things. But it was exciting. And I'm really glad that my parents are like big support systems behind me and helped me to put that music out there.
Mm.
Because now when I go back and listen to a song I released when I was 12, I just think it's a wonderful thing to hear and to
Mm.
hear the growth, but to also be like, wow, like I have a song called like On Fleek that came out,
Yeah.
and I just think like my 12-year-old self was absolutely living it up with the song On Fleek, and I love that so much. So it was definitely exciting. I think there's always a nervousness that comes with it, but I think it's a great thing, and I would say to any 11, 12, 13-year-olds, like, by the time, even though I say my age, I am only 17, but by the time you are like 16, 17 and you look back, it's like gold dust, the music that you put out there. And so you should always put it out and love what you're doing and not worry too much about what other people think.
Yes, I love that. That's brilliant advice. That is so good. And do you get a lot of advice from your parents and a lot of people around you as well about how to kind of approach tracks, how to record them, how to structure them as well?
So I work with a collective called Emotive Frequency,
Mm.
and it's a mixture of different like people who do different things like in music, whether it's like producers like beat wise or producers for vocals, whether it's mixing and mastering, or like whether it's the side of like album artwork or stuff like that. It's quite amazing like what I've been able to learn from Emotive Frequency, and my parents being a big part of my musical journey as well. I'm quite surrounded by people who advise me with stuff that I don't know, because I've got really good at saying like I don't know, like I don't know what to do, I'm not sure, and asking for the help and the knowledge and the advice. And the people around me are always so open to say, try this, you know, is this something that you want to work on? If so, this is what you should try with it, you know, just try anything. And what's really good as well is that the people around me are not forceful with what they want me to be in any way. Like what they want me to be is what I want to be and where my happiness will come from. And that really helps in a creative space, because writing a song like my song Wrong and Right, which has just come out, writing a
Mm.
song like that, you know, it's quite a vulnerable song where you speak about your insecurities and things you're unsure about, and having people around you that make the creative space safe and happy and have your best interest there really does help. And the advice part of it is a super big part of it.
So I couldn't agree more, because being honest and saying I don't know, I need advice is what I think a lot of people struggle with, don't they? I mean,
Hmm.
for you at such a young age to say I actually don't know, can I get some help? Was that difficult for you to open up to people and say I need advice on things as well, or did it take a while
Um,
to you have to open up to people and say I need advice on a few bits? You're still so young yourself, but did you find it quite difficult at first to open up to people?
I definitely think like for me, like I'm quite a perfectionist.
Yeah, me
I've had to
too.
work on it a bit, because when you first write a song, as like my dad has taught me, you don't write the finished song like the first time. Like songs take work. Like I always say, like songs need a soul. And for me at first, I was trying to write a whole life story of a song in one go, and I was getting really frustrated when it wasn't there. And that transition of the creative process and learning that there's time in between the beginning and the finish thing, like there's steps in between it, helped. And that was from asking, what do I do with this song? Like, how do I change the way I'm attacking the music that I'm doing? Because I'm trying to, like, it took me a while. And it was also my dad that kind of said to me, I think you're trying to finish it all at once.
Mm.
And that help and advice if I didn't ask for that, I'd still be getting really frustrated
Yeah.
listening to beats thinking, why have I not written like 1 million albums by now? Like the song should be done. Like that type of stuff. It is difficult sometimes to ask for help. It's easy, I think, as human beings anyway, to want to do it ourselves and be strong and do it alone. But strength is always in numbers as well. Like it's makes you stronger, I think, when you can say, I'm really not sure. And someone who does know can literally give you a helping hand and show you what to do, show you their way of doing it, show you someone else's way of doing it, to craft your own way. So yeah, it's definitely something that always is being worked on. Like there's some stuff that I think I should know this, but then I'm like, but it's okay to not know it. So yes, it's a work in progress, definitely.
For someone like yourself, how do you learn the best? Do you find being thrown in the deep end and then learning what works best for you the best way of learning? Or, like I said a minute ago, do you talk to like your multi-frequency team and research people to see how they perform the best way of learning for you?
I think it's everything you just said, really. I from trying to be a perfectionist in a way, I'm a little bit of a scaredy cat of the deep end, I think. Even though I used to swim, this time in music, I'm sometimes like, the deep end is always a space you'll be uncomfortable because you don't know, like, if the floor is comfort, you don't know how far it is until the comfort area comes. And it's so special for me, like, especially my dad has always like, almost like preached the fact that you should always try and put yourself in uncomfortable places in music, because that uncomfortableness in songwriting, for example, where you don't know what lyrics to do, like people say writer's block, like you feel like you're having that, that's the deep end, that's the uncomfortable space, because you don't know where the verse is going to come, you don't know when you're going to finish it, but that's the place to put yourself in. And from like my mum and my dad, like being a big part of my musical journey, their guidance on that has helped. Like, be uncomfortable in a song, be uncomfortable writing the lyrics, don't feel good about the ones you've written, like there's nothing wrong with that. After you felt uncomfortable, you now have a whole song and then you can work from it. Like, it's always about learning. And I think also for me, being in the shallow end of something is, I've already done it before in a way, and I think for music it's always about learning. So it's always about putting yourself in the deep end to not even learn how to swim, but to learn that it's not a bad place once you know that it's just part of getting back to the shallow end. Like it's part of getting back to what you know. And yeah, it's a mixture of things, like researching other artists. Like I like that. I like watching like a lot of documentaries on artists. Like I watched the Mary J. Blige one on Amazon Prime the other day, and
really?
It's really quite hard hitting and quite like important for an artist to see other people that have done it and to watch, you know, what mistakes also other people have made, and look at how in yourself as well, like, okay, what types of things does that artist do that I also do, that I love doing? You know, what types of things am I not comfortable with doing, but they're really good at? And how can I take inspiration from that? And yeah, it's always a mixture of stuff. I think it has to be advice and help and teamwork. And then the research part of it, like, you have to look at the greats that have really done it. Like, you have to.
You have to, because I know that in such like songs like Beautifully Crushed Soul, for instance, talk about waters as well, that you actually wrote something similar, didn't you, about like things like swimming in drowning waters, that's giving birth to life, and having a big mouth and never being heard. I mean, is it these kind of moments of uncertainty that helps you to inspire you to write these kind of lyrics and to deal with them?
Well, those lyrics I wrote when I was 11, and I think I didn't yet know that, you know, when you get to like 11, 12, as I said like earlier, you know, at those ages, you know, your whole life inside yourself is changing and you don't even realize it yet. Like, you don't really understand that you're about to go through like a huge change and become a woman. It's kind of just like hits you like a truck, and one day you're like, oh, you know, I'm like now so much taller and I can now see a difference from like 2 years ago. Like, it's really weird. But from those songs, those kind of, the feelings inside us that we may not even realize we're feeling always come out. And I think with that song, those like opposites and the kind of juxtapositions and all the different things in it that make it an opposite end kind of song, like you say one thing like, it's like having a big mouth but never being heard. Like, those things is how everyone feels sometimes, you know. That lyric can be taken in loads of different ways, And for me, I think sometimes like it can almost be like you might be saying all the right things and might be like feeling like you're shouting it so loud, but you're not being heard by anyone. And those types of stuff that you feel inside is what comes out in songs. Those small uneasy parts, as you were saying, like the uneasy parts of music, the deep end parts of it is what crafts songs like that, because they're the unsure, like it's the unsure lyrics, it's the unsure places that craft the verses and the meanings behind those songs. So yeah.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Because I actually wanted to get into something else that you do actually, because I know that you're an advocate for mental health, aren't you yourself?
Yeah, like I take mental health quite seriously,
Mm,
because I've I can feel quite anxious a lot of the time,
yeah,
and I know that before I've had like quite bad anxiety, and around that type of stuff, I understand that everybody can think everybody's doing good, and everybody can think that they're the only one going through something, they're the only one who's anxious or the only one who feels depressed or down. But really, like, there's other people that feel that way. Like, you're not the only person. Like, other people will understand. And for me, mental health is it's important because it's what makes somebody who they are. If
hmm,
someone's feeling really depressed, their personality will change. And like, for example, with like my friendship group who I love dearly, like if any of them are feeling any way, like I feel it as a friend. When my happens with my family, you feel it, and
hmm.
it's something that should never be taken lightly. It's a serious thing, and people are going through it all the time, no matter how strong they look, no matter whether they're like 7 foot and built with the most amount of muscle and look like they could take on the Hulk. Like they might be really anxious inside, and it's never something that you should put past anyone. You should always check on how people are doing. You should always give people the opportunity to also be upset and feel sad
Mm.
and then feel happy. It's yeah, mental health is a big thing for me. I think that I'm so glad that it's being talked about, and
Yeah.
especially at Brit School, they speak about mental health like all the time. It's something that they are always like, if you don't feel comfortable talking to me, talk to this member of staff or this member of staff, or share it with a friend, or do this. There's these platforms. They always give us like the numbers of any mental health like charities or anything like that, or helplines, to get anyone help who needs it. They're like always arms open wide, like all the time. And I hope that more of the world takes on that approach, because people always like people don't always need help, but there's always times when they do need help, and they need someone to go like, I've got you, like don't worry, you're not the only one feeling like this, I understand.
Mm.
So yeah, mental health is always something that I'll always take seriously, because it's affecting people in different ways. Like mental health can be in really good health where you're really happy, and people should appreciate that. And when you're feeling sad and on the other end, people should also appreciate that as well.